Hi, welcome back to ACOP 2022. I'm Shimin, Commander of Emergency Bureau Sciences and Care Unit at the Singapore Civil Defence Force, and I will be the moderator for this panel session on technology and human behavior. Now, in his keynote address earlier, Mr. Tiong has shared with us about how technology should work for us and how we should involve and include people in the digital transformation journey. So in this coming panel session, our speakers will be continuing along the same track. We will be sharing on the opportunities, applications, and impact of technology in our home team operations. So how can we actually leverage on technology to improve the performance of our public safety and enforcement officers to meet our mission of a safe and secure environment? At the same time, they will also touch on the intended and unintended consequences of technology adoption and how may we therefore better influence people to adopt technology. Now, before I introduce our lineup of panelists today, can I get everyone in the audience to quickly share how you feel towards technology adoption in our work life? Nowadays, technology is just everywhere and also increasingly more so in our work life, especially since the pandemic times. So feel free to key in the chat box so that you can share with everyone here. Okay, so maybe I'll just start off. So for instance, I actually feel that I have a love-hate relationship towards technology. I like the fact that we can do away with hard copy forms nowadays and we can just do forms online whenever we have to approve things at the work, and that we can actually seek inputs simultaneously in collaborative software. However, I do not quite enjoy having to go through different clearances, when we want to actually adopt new technology in our work processes. So even though I know, I understand that they may, and they are actually quite necessary. Okay, so that's how I'll describe my relationship. Okay, so feel free to add in the chat group. Okay, so I see that yeah, some people have started adding on. So they mentioned that, okay, challenging. Uh, Someone has also mentioned that, it has become our way of life. So it is already normal. Okay. All right. Also, yeah, necessary at the same time. So it doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So it seems like it's quite, okay. Someone else has added, okay, that I felt that the human contact is affected as everyone seems to be on their phones all the time. Okay, so it does seem like, with the increasing use of technology, there may be some impact in terms of our human touch and our human contact. Okay. Okay, someone has also added that, again, in agreeing with an earlier commenter, that technology is currently quite essential part of our life. Okay, it makes life a lot more efficient, a lot more convenient. Okay, someone also indicated that it has fully integrated into our daily lives. Okay. Oh, okay. So another participant has highlighted that adoption was slow but pretty fast now, and will likely just get faster in time to come. Okay. Also maybe quite complex and intriguing, especially when it makes work processes much easier. Okay, and also someone just highlighted it should also be balanced. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for your active participation. So it seems like technology is now very much a great part of our life and will increasingly be so. But yet at the same time, there seems to be certain things that we may lose if we are not careful, in time to come. So without further ado, let me hand over the time, to my panelists here today. It is actually my privilege to introduce the four panelists who are with us here today. So the first panelist that we have is Prof. Martin Robol. Prof. Martin, yes, hi. Great wave, thank you. Prof. Martin is actually a professor of geoinformation engineering at ETH Zurich, which is actually one of the world's leading universities known for its cutting-edge research and innovation in science and technology. So at the Singapore ETH Center, Prof. Martin is the principal investigator of the Digital Underground Project and the Distributed Cognition for Social Resilience Research Cluster in Future Resilient Systems Program. So his research interests focus on spatial decision-making and spatial cognitive engineering. Okay, so welcome, Prof. Martin. Okay, next up, our second panelist is Dr. Saravana Kumar, okay, who is the Deputy Director for Modeling and Simulation at the Human Factors and Simulation Center of Expertise at the Home Team Science and Technology Agency. He spearheads key research initiatives in the areas of extended reality, serious games, high-fidelity simulators, and constructive simulation to enhance operational performance and to address workload, fatigue, and vigilance issues faced by home team officers. So welcome, Dr. Saravana. Okay. Now, our third panelist today is none other than Mr. Tiong Hao Hua, okay, who was the keynote speaker in the earlier session today. So Mr. Thiong is a Deputy Commissioner of the Singapore Civil Defence Force. Okay, he focuses on the corporate strategy and delivery of operational and corporate support services to ensure a high-performing SCDF. So welcome back once again, Mr. Thiong. And our final panelist for today to round up the session is Associate Professor So Ki-Hian. Welcome, Professor So. He is the head of Criminal Investigation Minor, a program for the police, which is accredited by the Singapore University of Social Sciences. He also teaches policing-related courses and conducts industry training in investigation. So prior to SUSS, he was actually a career police officer who held many leadership positions in the Singapore Police Force and in various departments in the Ministry of Home Affairs, as well as the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau. So let's welcome our four panelists. Okay, to kickstart today's panel session, Prof. Martin will share with us on the integration of modern technology to improve training procedures and how to create new expertise in response to new technologies and addressing our concerns and risks to ensure that new technologies actually support people. So let's welcome Prof. Martin. Over to you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Prof. Martin.
There was a slight problem with the internet here.
No issue.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. I'm very happy about that, and also happy to be able to actually follow up on the keynote, which was talking about shaping new behaviors. And so one of our questions today is how we can leverage on technology to create a safer and better environment for everyone. And I think there's a distinction between, in using technology to make that happen, or employing technology to actually get a better understanding of the training process for the officers, for example. And it is obvious nowadays that in many fields, data science has become a driving force. When you look at the training procedures for safe and better environments, as we have heard, this is pretty much the same. So I want to highlight first how we can integrate modern technology actually into the training procedures of officers, for example, to improve these training procedures. And I'm particularly talking about things like physiological sensors, things like eye tracking devices that we can employ to see and to find out where people are actually looking at a given moment in time. And both of these have been shown to actually help in understanding the training procedure, in understanding cognitive processes, and also improving them. I give you one example. I mean, one for police officer, one training procedure, one case would be the following case that, there is a husband and wife, and there's a case of domestic violence. How should the police officer react? And in the worst case, that might be combined with suicide and things like that. So there's a scenario where officers have to be trained. And what we can do there is actually, we can determine the cognitive load. Eye tracking technology can be employed to determine cognitive load. We know that a certain stress is important to have for decision making, but if you have too much stress, they can have a negative effect on decision making. And also, when you communicate with different people, like in this wife and husband scenario, who should you focus on? Where should you look? How should you look? And how should you communicate with these people? So we might get a better impression and better insight on how officers deal with such a process, where they make mistakes, and how this can they actually improve to work better in a real case. So this integration of sensors like eye tracking and physiological sensors, skin conductance sensors, I think allows to evaluate stress, to investigate, as I said, decision making under stress, and it also allows us to determine cognitive load. And we know that there are individual differences, so not every officer reacts in the same way to a given scenario. So you can evaluate whether some officers, some people are more stress resilient, and if not, what you can do to alleviate the stress. And one common method, for example, is to measure pupil dilation, which gives you an insight on cognitive load. And once you know about all these data, you can adapt the training procedures accordingly. Now, I also want to pick up on what Mr. Tiong has said, that, and I think this is really important, we must ensure that the new technologies support the people and not create additional workload. And in order to find out about that, we don't want to employ technology for technology's sake, but we want to see a clear benefit. So the question is, and I think this is a research issue where we have to work on, how to actually measure these benefits. Like in a concrete scenario, it might be an increased effectiveness in the handling. That means you find better solutions. It might also be efficiency, that you can solve a task much faster than previously. But it is very important to be able to, first of all, name the clear benefits and also communicate these to the people, to the officers, that they know why this technology is employed, and that we want to employ this technology actually to help them make better decisions in the real world. Now, what is also clear is when we employ new technologies, and I just take again eye tracking as an example, then you need new expertise in an organization. I mean, technology also, many people say technology makes things faster and easier, but it also comes at a cost. You need really rigid training procedures, and so you have to make sure that actually when you employ new technologies, you really have the expertise in your company, in your organization, to be able to put them to good use. And what Mr. Tiong has also said, which I really like, this term, I think it was humanizing technology. I think this is a great term. And one thing that we in employing technology, we also deal with is the interaction with technology. So we have this term called unobtrusive interaction. So in an optimal case, we interact with technology, or technology helps us without us even noticing it. So you don't want to get the precious critical time of an officer in an emergency scenario, half of the time spent on using the technology and focusing on the technology, because the technology should be unobtrusive in a way that it is kind of running in the background. It helps the officers in the decision making, but not takes time away from the actual task which they need to focus on. So I think this is another important point. And finally, I want to address also privacy concerns. New technology comes with privacy concerns, so we should be aware of that. I know in some areas, the emergency can overrule privacy concerns. In other areas, it shouldn't. And I want to give you one example. So we have been working for many years with commercial airline pilots to employ eye tracking in improving their training procedures. And the first thing when you do that is the airline pilots actually become even more stressed, because they think, somebody's watching them all the time. All the time, their supervisors see where they look at, and it puts them under an additional stress. But once we actually talk to them and we show them what you can do with the data and how they can actually use their data, in debriefing, they saw that actually, hello, hey, that can help me. That can actually help me in the debriefing. I can see what mistakes I make and I can correct these mistakes. So I think these things have to be taken into account. We have to take privacy concerns seriously. And we also have to focus on reducing risks. You don't want to put office or put people in a particular enhanced risk actually based on technology. The technology should be there to help people, but not put them under an additional risk. So these were the 3 points that I wanted to make. I'm looking forward to the further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Martin. Okay, I think you've made quite a number of actually very interesting and very important points. I think firstly you shared about that how your work actually show how we can actually introduce a scientific way of improving operational performance, for instance, through spatial training, yet while accounting for individual differences that all of us actually have, right? So, and then I think the second point about how we need to make sure that technology actually work for us, you know, and need to make sure that we have the expertise, you know, we need to have unobtrusive intrusion, for instance, when we actually, anytime we adopt technology, okay, so that's quite important too. And thirdly, I think that was a really critical point about how if technology is not appropriately managed or appropriately introduced to users, it actually can have the opposite impact of creating more stress rather than helping us in our area of work if not managing properly. Yeah, so thank you so much for the key points that you shared. Okay, so next we'll actually invite our second panelist, Dr. Saravana, okay, to share with us on the use of emergency responders fitness conditioning and enhanced lab at the Civil Defense Academy, which is used to actually optimize responders' physiological and psychological performance, and how Excel actually amplifies the ops tech integration and the synergistic interplay between training and research. So over to you, Dr. Saravana.
Yeah, greetings to all. I'd like to share a case study on how technology is used to enhance responder performance. So a case in point here is actually the Emergency Responders Fitness Conditioning and Enhancement Lab, or EXCEL for short. So EXCEL is a purpose-built facility to enhance the responders' physiological and psychological performance. And it is jointly developed by the Home Team Science and Technology Agency, or HTX, and Singapore Civil Defense Force. So EXCEL is equipped with a host of capabilities to holistically address different aspects of human performance. For example, starting from the top left, we have the climatic chamber in EXCEL, which simulates desired environmental conditions in a realistic manner for the conduct of like breathing apparatus proficiency test, and to build the thermal resilience of firefighters through acclimatization programs. And then moving clockwise, within EXCEL, we also have the fitness evaluation lab to conduct pre and post physiological assessment, as well as design effective intervention programs for optimal fitness and safety. Following that, at the cognitive lab, this is a space which is equipped with advanced systems such as FNIRS, EEGs, and we also have psychometric systems and behavioral coding tools, where the focus here is to research and develop new training protocols to enhance responders' cognitive and behavioral performance. And within EXCEL, there is also a 360-degree wraparound immersive virtual environment, the one you see at the bottom right-hand corner. And this facility is complete with a 6 degrees of freedom motion platform and an instrumented dual belt treadmill, basically to challenge responders both physically and cognitively. so as to enhance their multitasking and decision-making skills under stressful conditions. It also serves as a pre-intervention tool to build resilience against PTSD, and serves as a platform for ergonomics assessment of systems such as exoskeleton systems and load carriage systems. So officers can actually don new prototypes of such systems, and we can evaluate the gait and balance of these officers as they negotiate different terrains within this environment. And moving further clockwise, the driving simulator within Excel enables responders the opportunity to practice emergency response driving in a safe and controlled environment, where data analytics provides insights onto their performance. And this is basically for enabling targeted and corrective training. And finally, Excel's extended reality suite, which is at the bottom left-hand corner. This is actually a suite that enables extended reality training on basic and advanced concepts of operations within SCDF, for example, where they are not constrained by the physical world. And in terms of these operations, it's quite diverse, including firefighting, post-fire forensics, management of road traffic accidents and hazardous materials, as well as training of SCDF paramedics and EMTs on like on-scene assessment and pre-hospitalization protocols. So taken together, the data from various facilities within Excel will be channeled to a central system control and data analytics center to provide a seamless platform for longitudinal and multimodal profiling of emergency responders. So as you can see, Excel actually exemplifies OPSTEC integration, where scientists and engineers from HTX work collaboratively with SCDF to conceptualize and validate new technology-driven initiatives. And this is based on scientific and evidence-based findings. So Excel actually presents a kind of a unique ecosystem where it is both a research and training facility. In fact, it is the first of its kind in for the firefighting fraternity within Southeast Asia. So this unique ecosystem actually presents an opportunity for R&D efforts to be seamlessly translated into tangible training and even operational outcomes. Yeah, so with that, I would like to end my sharing. Look forward to addressing your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Saravana. Okay, I think what you have shared with us just now in terms of your work with HTX actually looks very, very high tech and actually quite futuristic. So, and also I think you introduced to us how, you know, everything that has been built has been based on science and evidence. So it really looks quite interesting. Okay, and I wonder, you know, in time to come, is it something that we can expect, I don't know, to see on the ground or in ops in, I don't know, 5 to 10 years time? Do you think that's a high possibility?
Yes, I think that is a kind of a realistic goal.
Okay.
There are a number of different projects. Some are short-term and some are more on the mid-term and long-term horizons. But yes, we have clear KPIs, and we are working with SCDF in regards to how we can move forward with some of these research initiatives and deploy it in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Saravana. Okay. So with that, let's welcome our third panelist, Mr. Tiong, who will be sharing about how innovation and developing a technology ecosystem actually has helped SCDF to build confidence, to strengthen our research work, and to build up capabilities that can enhance safety in our operations and training. So, Mr. Tiong, please.
Hey, thanks, Simin. Yeah, so actually, I would really like to share the classic story of how we developed the Red Rhino, which is really known as the light fire attack vehicle, and something that SCDF is very proud of and we are quite well known for. So this evolution of our light fire attack vehicle, which is really a small size fire engine, is really synonymous with our SCDF journey of tech transformation and innovation. So back then in early 2000s, we need to overcome the problems of traffic congestion and the limitations caused by a conventional fire engine, which is rather big in size, and it really hinders our speedy response. So we really need to find a solution to speed up our response. And only with the support of SCDF leadership and the collaboration with a tech partner, and therein comes the ecosystem. We arrive at a bold idea of removing the bulky water tank from the fire engine. And this is possible because we took the advantage of Singapore well-established fire hydrant network. And also we are able to design then a smaller water pump that can be fitted into a small vehicle. And with that, right, we also explore new technology of using lesser water like water mist. And then now with the use of compressed air foam, that can enable us to have that kind of firefighting capabilities. Yeah. So this idea of having a small fire engine that can maneuver narrow streets and turn tight corners, right? It is important for us because you just imagine that 20 years ago, when we roll out this Red Rhino, the small fire engine concept, it is very unthinkable in the firefighting world that a fire engine don't have a water tank. And fast forward, right, today this Red Rhino has been going through many iterations, and it has proven to be very successful in many fronts because we are able to now, with the Red Rhino, which is half the size of a fire engine, able to be deployed at the various satellite fire posts, which a fire engine cannot be parked at a fire post merely because of its big size. So the latest version of our Red Rhino was only recently launched in June this year. It comes with the new equipment, and it also comes with Red Rhino robots, which is able to complement our firefighting crew. So when I joined service 20 over years ago, one fire engine, there are 8 people. And then now with the light fire attack vehicle, the Red Rhino, we have four crew. And now with this robot, we are only down to 3-man crew. So this is one of the measures that we can address our manpower constraint, And the Red Rhino, the latest version of the Red Rhino, we are also looking at what just now Professor mentioned about, how to have this man-machine integration. How can we interact with them? Because in future, all our drills will be very different. It will not be, having a buddy, a teammate as only a human. It could be a robot. Yeah. So we need to get used to all this kind of work arrangement. And also using robots, using drones will become very common for our future operations. And this will also enhance our safety. We no longer have to send a man into a firefighting buildings, but we can instead send our firefighting robots. Yeah. So the Red Rhino has given us a lot of confidence in building platforms like fire engines, and they can be adapted to our local context rather than we just, buy off the shelves. So for now, internally within SCDF, we use digitalization and IoT technologies in almost all aspects of our core business, from tapping data information from smart buildings with sensors that can afford us with continuous real-time monitoring, and also firefighters wearing those wearable technologies to enhance their safety and operational effectiveness. They also just now I also heard from Professor Martin to talk about all the physiological monitoring, how we change the training. So today we are collecting all this data, at the fire station at our academy to monitor the health and well-being of our people. And that's about SCDF and how we respond and how we leverage on innovation and technology to help us. So with the broader community, there is also a general shift in the paradigm, how we work with the community. It used to be very transactional. SCDF, as I mentioned, right, is a one-way response, but now we are looking with greater partnership, co-delivering emergency services with the community. And that is why we have this vision of a nation of lifesaver. So we think that in an emergency, the public should have the skills and the knowledge to help people around them before the arrival of SCDF. And we can do that because of technology. So today, we are able to change our mode of engagement with the public. From last time, we just provide them with hardware. Let's say just some emergency first aid kit. To today, that we are now able to provide them with activation, with information about where are all the AEDs installed, using location services like from our My Responder apps. So with this kind of technology, right, then it enables us to that the community first responder able to provide critical interventions, to provide CPR, or using buckets of water to put out incipient fires and mitigate risk before any situation escalate. And like I mentioned in my earlier keynote, that we are now trying to improve this app to have more features, to provide alerts for people to stay safe, and to deliver learning and training opportunities for the community, to have gamification if possible, so that people, can see this as this app as often as possible, so that they don't lose sight of using the apps. So that is on the community front. On data analytics, right, one of the big ideas that we have, right, in SCDF is how to be more proactive and preventive and upstream in our approach, rather than just putting out fires or responding to emergency medical calls. So we believe that with technology, algorithms, artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, we can provide alerts to members of public in advance of dangers, to predict disasters, to analyze trends so that we can better assign resources optimally. Yeah, because in many fire services or many emergency services, right, they always use like a sledgehammer approach. We always provide over-resourcing, yeah. But we want to provide the optimal use of resources, given that we are going to have a constraint or limited in resources. Yeah. So we want to also arrive faster and stronger, if possible, before any emergency happens. So our future, we think that it is one that no one have to wait for us, and everyone is well prepared ahead of an emergency. So this is the big idea that we hope to achieve. Yeah. And of course, if it's inevitable that a disaster strikes, a fire happens, technology can also enable us to have effective forms of response. For example, all the sensors, all the cameras can detect live, can detect heat signatures, and also cameras able to scan situation under the rubbles, and also sensors to detect hazardous gases, temperature. Yep. So as you can see, technology is very exciting on many different areas, whether before an incident, during an incident, or after an incident. So we need to collaborate with many other partners. We need to do research and development. We need to look out to identify for trends, study them, and how they can be adopted to enhance the work we do. That is where experimentation is important. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will just leave it here. Thank you, Sumi.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Tiong. I think I have several takeaways from what you've shared earlier. So I think what you were first suggesting is that actually this technology adoption is a very long journey. And this journey is a whole journey of experimentation, refining along the way, trying new things in a way. So it seems that some early successes has been experienced, and that has actually helped SCDF to move forward to go into new things such as robots and drones. And yet at the same time, I think that my second takeaway is that amongst all these changes and this whole journey, right, there is a very clear focus in terms of what we want to achieve here. So such as safety, operational effectiveness, and also involving the community. Okay, so I think that's pretty exciting, and I think it also maybe suggests that everyone needs to be patient at the same time in going along this journey, but yet persistent at the same time, probably. Yeah, so thank you very much, Mr. Tiong. So last but not least, we have our final panelist, Prof. So. Okay, he will be sharing about the potential and emerging technologies that can be adopted in another area of safety, okay, and law enforcement, okay, and also in criminal investigations. So over to you, Prof. So.
Yeah, thank you, Sumi. Thank you, ACOP, for inviting me to this panel. I'm most privileged to join this panel alongside the very three distinguished panelists. I would like to take a look at a higher vantage point at the issues surrounding the leveraging of technology to enhance public safety and security. I would like to do my sharing in three parts. Firstly, looking at the key considerations when we think about the use of technology to enhance public safety and security. And then I give some examples on the deployment of technology. And then lastly, I'll talk about the success factors associated with the use of technology to improve safety and security. So to start off, the first consideration as we look at the use of technology is that the environment we live in today is both physical and virtual. You'll recall that the term phygital was previously coined to refer to a combination of both the physical and the digital worlds. And today, the developments talk about the development of the metaverse, and transactions will occur in the metaverse. And our lives are going to unfold in both the physical and the digital worlds. And similarly, threats to public safety can come in different forms. The second consideration is that as we think about using technology to support safety and security, we must recognize that technology is also used by those inclined to harm public safety and security. So you know the internet is abused, with the darknet being used for crime, and social media is abused to spread fake news and hate crimes. And the blockchain, which is built for a good purpose, is abused by criminals when they use cryptocurrencies in the commission of crimes. The last consideration I'd like to talk about is that technology is dynamic and ever-changing. For instance, camera technology has advanced greatly. Today, many cities around the world have CCTVs, including in Singapore, London, New York, Seoul, New Delhi, and many cities in China, where tens of thousands of cameras are installed. With advanced technology, such cameras can have various functions such as facial recognition and artificial intelligence to detect incidents. And as technology advances, we cannot remain static. There are many strands of technology that will keep changing, and we have to keep changing, keep learning, and keep improving. So bearing in mind such key considerations, let me just share a few examples of what I've seen on the usage of technology for public safety and security. Firstly, technology is used in monitoring and preventing threats. And secondly, technology supports incident response to and the mitigation of the threats to public safety and security. So in terms of monitoring and preventing threats from emanating, technology can support a greater and more effective sense-making. Today, it's not a cliche to say that we live in a big data world. We receive data and information from many sources, from CCTVs, from reports, from information that was submitted, from the social media, from emails, and many other sources. And technologies such as AI and big data analytics can be deployed to help us make better sense so that we can better prevent the next lone wolf attack or other forms of security incidents. Today, you know the banks already use AI to identify fraud. And such technology and such approaches can be used and indeed are being used by agencies on a much wider scale to look at the extensive data sets that relate to public safety and security. This technology that should help us scan the horizon better and be better able to prevent the threats from emanating. In the past, security agencies can only do ground deployment and tabletop exercises. But today, as experience in, for example, the Singapore Police Force, with the use of simulation technology, they can upgrade their training and practice their responses to various types of simulated security incidents and make themselves more ready and more prepared to be able to deal with public safety and security threats. Secondly, technology will help us with better responses and enable us to more quickly restore public safety and security by way of incident response, crisis management, and investigation. Identification technology is applied today to identify the parties involved. And there are many advances in biometrics technology, such as in fingerprint technology, and even the use of iris recognition technology, and the use of the latest forensic DNA technology that will help further improve incident response and crisis management. Technology also can supplement the fight against those who threaten public safety and security. As an illustration, the FBI had actually sold undercover encryption technology to criminal gangs and let them use it for their communications. And with the FBI listening in, without them knowing about it. As this process went on, it allowed the FBI to plan and mount an international Operations Trojan Shield in June of last year to take down many gangs, from the Italian mafia, the outlaw motorcycle gangs, drug trafficking rings, and others, with hundreds of suspects arrested across the world. We can therefore think technology can actually be an effective weapon that we can wield against those who threaten public safety and security. There was an MIT study that showed that fake news traveled 6 times faster than genuine news. So in order to fight fake news, authorities will have to leverage on technology in order to be able to move just as fast. And in a major incident, mass notification of the public and the mass dissemination of facts have to be efficient so as to overcome fake news and misinformation. So in order to handle major incidents effectively, we do need to utilize technology in a smart way. Having looked at a few of those examples of the deployment of technology, let me discuss the key success factors. In my view, there are 3 key success factors in the use of technology. Firstly, reaping the value of the network. Public safety and security is a multi-stakeholder effort. It is not just the responsibility of enforcement agencies. Private companies, including the telcos, the ISPs, as well as the public, play a part. So for example, when you enter a car park and a signage tells you that the car park is monitored by in-vehicle video cameras, that has an effect on safety and security. Building owners secure their buildings, and the CCTVs, access control, and other resources can be tapped to support public safety and security where necessary. Crowdsourcing of information from the public is a real asset. As seen in the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, within one day, there were 10 terabytes of data with photos and videos provided by the public. Today, the size of such crowdsourced data will be much, much more. And we certainly need to pool resources and so as to reap the benefit of the network. The second success factor, in my view, is innovation. Innovation either through innovation in technology or an innovative use of technology. In 2016, instead of a traditional takedown, the Dutch police actually took over a dark web drug market and conducted the illegal business in order to uncover its extent and then be able to follow up with a much more effective enforcement with a far greater reach. So if we consider the scourge of e-scams today, can law enforcement and telcos play along innovatively and thereby disrupt more comprehensively the scam networks? So we may have to think of unconventional and innovative approaches which we can embark upon in order for us to be successful. Emerging technologies such as AI, robotics, blockchain, use of IoT with 5G are also potential areas of leverage of technology. Many police forces are already trying out the use of AI. The Japanese police uses AI in predictive policing, example, identifying if multiple crimes were committed by the same culprit. In Dubai, they have tried using an AI police robot in counter service and in illegal drug use crime prevention effort. In Singapore, a robot was deployed in the housing estate on trial last year to look out for undesirable social behavior and COVID-19 safe distancing violations. Other technologies such as blockchain could be used to support the sharing of data between agencies in a secure manner, ensuring that the chain of custody for critical materials such as case evidence is not broken. And 5G and IoT technology improves connectivity and allows for a far greater volume and speed of transmission of voice and data. Ultimately, and this is my final point, the human factor is still the most important success factor. Firstly, technology needs to integrate into our work processes. Processes may also need to be re-engineered. For instance, the police is changing the paradigm with scene of crime investigation. Today, some police forces, including the Singapore police, think that instead of having to bring case evidence from the scene to the lab, which is quite a laborious process, with technology advances such as miniaturization, they can work in terms of bringing the lab to the scene, and this provides for better responsiveness and effectiveness. Lastly, the ability of the human to process and make meaning remains critical even if we use technology. Technology is just an enabler and not a silver bullet. Decision-making remains the preserve of humans. If the algorithm designed for AI of facial recognition, for instance, has a bias or is inaccurate, we can and we need to fix it. We must remember that technology is man-made and improvements can be made. Terms such as the big brother and surveillance society are all legitimate concerns, and we do need to establish proper standards that would ensure the public that technology is indeed helping to improve public safety and security. Ethical standards make sure that we can tap on the value of technology and not have any unintended effects.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. So. All right, I think you have actually shared with us really many interesting points, but I think my main takeaway is this part about how technology is only an enabler, and at the end of the day, how it is us, who actually control how we want to use it. So thank you so much. We'll quickly move into the Q&A session, okay, because there's actually quite a lot of questions. Unfortunately, we may not have enough time to go through all of them, so we may just take about 2, maximum 3 questions. So the first question from the audience is that it says, hi sirs, I was hoping to seek your views on the humans kind of expected resistance towards new tech transformations, and if there are any known strategies to reassure people or to overcome hesitance or to seek buy-in. Would any of our speakers like to take the question?
Yeah, I think there are 2 factors here actually. One is the usefulness of the technology, and secondly, it's the usability, how usable it is. So the technology has to address a dire need or a pressing need that the user has. And if there is not a clear match, right, then clearly the usefulness litmus test is not really met. So I think there needs to be engagements as well, like focus group discussions to share the potential of the technology so that the users, like in this case, when I say users, it's probably the home team departments, and so that they can understand the merits of the technology and how it can augment or complement their operations. The other aspect is, of course, the usability of the technology. In terms of the technology may actually be useful, but it may not be usable in a sense that it might impede their operations. That there might be some unintended consequences which actually, would limit the potential use of or adoption of these technologies in operations. So yeah, in short, I think these are the 2 areas that we need to focus on. Added to that is the engagements and focus group discussions with the users as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saravana. I think what you've essentially pointed out is where there's a need, there'll be motivation to actually adopt the technology. Yeah, I think that's pretty basic, to all of us, and it would be something enduring that will serve all of us well. Thank you for that. I'll very quickly probably move to the next question. Okay, so this next question, thank you for the very engaging panel discussion. Dear sirs, wanted to hear your views about skills training for officers. So with AI technology feeding us information at high speeds, what skills do we need to start equipping our officers with? Will we need a different skill set for making decisions, especially when there are multiple data points to consider?
I can briefly respond to that because I think it also ties a little bit into this other question from the audience, whether we need to worry about people losing the industry-specific skills. And I think there are certain things, that AI algorithms do. They produce results and produce, interpretations of data where the officers don't have to do anything. But when it comes to employing technologies in reality, then obviously they need to be trained to do that. They might have to have some sort of data science background. We're always more moving into that direction. And I think they have to have a good understanding of what the technology can do and what it can't do. And why I said it ties into this other question, worry about people losing the industry-specific skills. I think this is an excellent point. And yes, we should worry. I mean, we should do something about it, but I give you a trivial example. If you're sitting in an airplane, if the autopilot fails, you still want the pilot to be able to, steer the plane and not fall from the sky. And I think it has been, in another example, what we do all the time, all of us use navigation systems all day long. And it has been shown in studies that actually the use of navigation systems leads to a degradation of spatial knowledge acquisition. So they took the navigation system away from people. Although they navigated like the same route 100 times, they were lost because they were only relying on the system and didn't pay attention anymore. So I think it is very important because technology can fail. And in an emergency situation, it is very important that the officer, the responder still knows how to deal with the situation if technology fails, and not to put 100% trust on technology.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Martin. I think you raised a very important point about how while technology can facilitate, it is not foolproof in that sense. So we still need to retain our industry-specific skills. Thank you so much for that. Maybe we'll go into the last question in the interest of time. Okay, this question is about cyber vulnerabilities and how cyber vulnerabilities, the threats of hacking, are actually very real. So what are the panel's thoughts on how to balance sufficient contingency planning or backup plans when things may not work as expected, since technology is used so much in operations?
I suppose have a go at that.
Thank you.
I think it is really a risk-based approach that has to be adopted because where there's failure of technology, it can have impact at different levels. And we do need to figure out what are the risks and what are the consequences if certain risks materialize. And then thereby determine what is of high priority to protect, to provide backups and to provide workarounds, and what is it that we may have to make do with manual responses and processes. So I think it is very much a concerted overall view, taking a strategic viewpoint on how we can go about to protect ourselves from the threats of technology. And we always say that it's not a question of whether we will be affected by IT threats. It's a question of when. Because we say this because IT is man-made. And anything man-made could be undone by human beings, and therefore it's a question of us building our resilience, looking at the threats and the risks, and then deciding what is it that we need to put in place.
Okay, thank you for that, Prof. So. May I know whether, Mr. Dong, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, actually, this question is quite similar to the earlier one. Like, we cannot depend on technology alone. The man in the loop is still important. In fact, I think, like I say, the races that we are running, right, the human must be the winner. It cannot be the machine. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it must enhance and unleash the human potential. Yeah. So if technology, erodes the human capability, right, then something is wrong. That is why I think as we are leveraging more technology in our work, right, we have to be even more rooted in our understanding of human behaviors. And that's why human and technology, we really need to understand very well. we need to understand, like the deepest attributes of a human, how we think, how we understand, and how we feel, so that we can integrate well with technology. Yeah, it cannot be we depend on the GPS system, then we loses our spacious capability. We try not to do that. We really need this better understanding of human behavior and better integrate and to enhance and to allow human potential to be unleashed. Yep.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Tiong. Actually, thank you, panelists, for the insightful, interesting, and thought-provoking discussion. I have to send my apologies to the audience that we couldn't take on further questions due to the time constraints, although we thank you for your interest and also the questions that you have sent in. So I believe many of you in the audience have actually benefited from the sharing from the panelists. So once again, thank you very much to our dear four panelists for your insights and for your sharings. Okay, so we have come to the end of this panel discussion session. Okay, so for now, we will actually allow some time for our panelists to take their leave. Okay, before we move on to the final segment of our conference. So thank you so much, Prof. Martin. Okay, thank you, Mr. Tiong. Thank you, Dr. Saravana, and thank you, Prof. Su. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so for our conference delegates, please do stay on with us for just a while more, okay, for our closing session for ACOP. So I'll hand over the time to Charmaine, please.
Thank you, Shimin, and to our panel members for that very enriching and fruitful discussion. With this, we have come to the end of the main program for ACOP 2022. We thank everyone for your active participation in the conference, and I'm sure that the exchanges have led to many learnings and cross-sharing of critical perspectives on various topics relating to safety and security. We are keen to know how you felt about ACOP 2022 and what else we can do to make subsequent ACOP conferences more enjoyable. We seek your kind help to fill out the feedback form by clicking more on the sidebar, followed by the feedback icon.